It says we're live, so I would assume we are. Um, is it 1996 or is it 2021? Well, we're going to talk about all those times. I'm here with who's backstage, my good friend Chris Cuzme, saxa brewer from New York City. And we're going to dive in. Now, he's going to make me jealous because I know he'll be drinking one of his brews as we chat about creativity and what we've done in the past and what we hope to do in the future. But without further ado, I want to bring on the great Chris Cuzme, a wonderful friend. We've known each other since 1996. We've played together. I've been lucky enough to drink his amazing brews from Fifth Hammer Brewing in Long Island City. And he's one of my greatest friends, and the vibe continues. So here we go. I'm going to try to bring Chris in. Let's see. Is he coming?
Yeah.
This is always an amazing thing when it works, you know. I'm always excited about that. So Chris, welcome. It's so great to see you.
Thank you very much. Good to be here. Oh, look at that.
Where are you these days? Where are you right now?
This is when we built Fifth Hammer out, we didn't think we'd need an office, so we just built a storage closet. And so, but now we use it as an office, and it's the only place we can ever find any peace and quiet and stuff. And we're busy enough to so that this is kind of where I'm thrust to be at my lonesome and where I get the most work done. Here with all the other storage stuff, you know.
It's the think tank.
It's a think tank, and it's
among other tanks.
Labor law postage too that we have to stay in compliance for all of our employees to see, because this is also where stuff happens, you know.
Wow.
And you are correct, by the way, also. That,
okay, so before we go further, you must tell everyone and me what you're drinking, and maybe a little bit about well, it's going to be a long story because we're really going to talk about the origins of how you got into brewing beer and all of that. But and now you are drinking what beer today?
I'm drinking one of the first beers we made here at Fifth Hammer Brewing Company called Neighbor Brow Pilsner. It's just a simple drinking beer for my friends and neighbors, Neighbor Brow. And it's all Pilsner malt with a little bit of acid malt for the pH to be down and keep kind of sharp acidity. All Saaz hops. And one reason it, for me, is a very prideful beer is that it's not audacious with a lot of flavors. It's not loud, slapping you in the face. It's a very simple beer, but there's nothing to hide behind in it. So it really is a testament to a great Pilsner is really a testament to a brewer's skill. It's kind of like playing a ballad, you know, like you got to play in between the notes and subtle and just like be beautiful and luscious. And it's all about the melody. And it's not about, you know, playing a bunch of notes in your face and that stuff. It's just beautiful. It's there for you. It's something to rely upon. It's something for drinking and chilling with friends with, and also
my mouth is watering, by the way.
Yeah, you know, here you go. I'd pour it on my computer, but I don't know if I can afford that.
That wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work.
So, man, you know, there's a lot to talk about. I'm trying to think when I saw you the last time. It's been over a year, right? That we played, perhaps?
Yeah, I'm not sure that we played last we saw each other. I think I might have seen one of your shows at an art gallery in Greenpoint.
Wow.
Maybe. Was it that long ago that I saw you?
I think we did something at Fifth Hammer maybe in 2019, perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah. So that might be the last time I've actually seen you in person. And you know, along with everybody else, we've been missing each other so much. Like I miss you so much and miss playing. And I know I missed a few gigs because of COVID and things like that. How did everything go for you, man? Because, you know, you're in the midst of your brewing company and then we get locked down. And how did you and Mary get through all of that?
Yeah. For us, COVID was a rather, it was pretty good all in all. Like it worked out pretty well. But first of all, as a story of kind of what Fifth Hammer was and what we were before the pandemic, we are not very big. We're a 15-barrel system, some 30-barrel tanks. But we have become pretty quickly a great community hub here in Long Island City, and a lot of people come through. As a result, by being small and also by being a really great community hub, most of the beer that I was making was really like sold direct to consumer right here on premise. And obviously, when COVID happened, you don't have that direct on premise thing anymore. So we had to jump swiftly to being a kind of to-go model, just to keep alive and keep the doors open and to get through it. So Mary was really the superhero in this. And Mary, by the way, everybody, is my wife, and we met through brewing, and we think a lot alike on beers. We think very different also, but we have a yin and yang thing going on, which makes the beer better in the end, along with the rest of our team here at Fifth Hammer. But I was out of town when New York shut down, and so was our taproom manager, and so was my partner Dave, and pretty much between the four of us, we were basically running the brewery. And Mary was here alone, going, "Oh my God, holy shit! What are we doing?"
Wow!
And quickly switched us over to kind of have us have a to-go shelf for the neighborhood, so people still came, and we were basically filling growlers. We didn't package much beer before then. We didn't have a thing. We basically had a mobile can that would come in once a month, and we would can 2 beers, like the most popular selling kind of beers to keep things afloat and make sense for losing the margins on packaging like that, was like sour beers and IPAs. Those always move no matter what, and we still dedicate ourselves to making them as banging as we can, but we can count on those for a return on that. When COVID happened, we were just filling from the tap, filling crowlers and things, and very quickly we upped the frequency with which we got those mobile canners, and then it didn't make any sense to not be buying our own canning machine, so we swiftly got a canning machine, and that is what got us through the pandemic. We became a different business model, and we were, or at least for the temporary time. Now the world is unfolding again. Now more people are vaccinated. People are starting to come in. We're now up to 75. Actually, I think we just went to 100% capacity. Or no, we are on the 19th, going to 100% capacity. Yeah. But still with the social distance guidelines in place.
Yeah. Wow, man. What a journey. And how also did that affect your playing as a musician? You know, what happened that year?
So what was crazy, so everybody self-furloughed here at Fifth Hammer, and so I didn't, and everybody took off from work, right? I didn't have that luxury, like as owner, and I came in and I took over all the brewing and got my boots wet again. And the good part of that was, as a family, as a brewery, we didn't have to fire anybody. People left on their own accord, and they came back as they were comfortable again. But I got deep down into doing stuff, and it was cool because we didn't have people in here again. So it reminded me of the early days, and so I'd be brewing, and I'd always have my saxophone out, and I'd be playing like as we're fermenting, and I'd be late night just like playing along to some good records and stuff. And that was during the wintertime, and there was nowhere to play, obviously, for most musicians and stuff.
Yeah.
But then finally, I remember like late May or mid-May, like around this time last year, some cats in the neighborhood, it was a beautiful day, and we decided to go like play on his stoop. He lives around the corner here. And we went and played the stoop, and it was just such a joyous occasion that all people in the neighborhood came out, and there was like, thank you. It was like light in the darkness of what summer of 2020 was. And down the block also, there was an art gallery that sells beer, outsider had just started doing that. And they're like, well, why don't you play over here instead? So we started playing over there in the parking lot in the back of a pickup truck. And then that kind of grew. We did that every Sunday. I booked Sundays then for that. Like the neighborhood came out for it. The parking lot could feed like 300 people, well socially distanced. Like it's a very spread out kind of situation. It's super cool. So ironically, I did a lot of playing last summer.
Wow.
And it was beautiful. And we didn't make a lot of money. It was all tip based. But at the end of summer, it ended up doing a thing. And that place is called Culture Lab LIC. I still help book for that right now. And this year, it was so successful last year, they built a stage now, and that isn't too fancy a stage. It's just like it incorporates the truck that we were playing out of into the middle of it to kind of give tribute to what that last summer was. I love it. Instead of serving beer from a jockey box, I found a kegerator for them, and they're going to do that. And that money from that like goes to the community or to Culture Lab LIC, which helps run the nonprofit art gallery there too. So anyway, there's a great community and neighborhood vibe here in LIC with that. Not to the other breweries that are also here, but as far as for me with playing, we did a lot of different stuff. We just started playing again here at Fifth Hammer 3 weeks ago. So this will be the fourth Wednesday we've been playing at Fifth Hammer again, and we're not doing it inside because with the capacity issues, we're not going to mess with that too much. But it's also just really nice to do out on the street. So for now, I'm rolling the piano out. I have an upright piano here, and I'm rolling that piano
wow.
in the street, and it's just a vibe. It's cool.
It is a vibe. That's beautiful, man. Well, it's like I was thinking today and also yesterday about some of the scenarios we've been in and when we first met and all of that stuff. And I want to get into that a little bit with you because of some of this music we've shared over the years, and I'm sure we'll continue to share some new stuff going forward. But I was really interested in the origins of Chris Cuzme in terms of, firstly, music. When did music come into your life, and when did you know that you had to do that? And then the second part of that is the brewery side of it. When did you know that beer was something you had to do as well? And they go together quite well as we're in these jazz clubs and things like that playing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As far as origins, as far as deciding it's a vocation, origins, how they came to be are different than how I'm like, oh wow, this is something I need to do forever. Like to pick up an instrument, for me, came from like I remember vividly like watching on TV just some show, and there was this commercial that went on, like I think it was the Best of Cannonball Adderley, because later in life I saw this album cover and I was like, oh my god, let's remember what that is. And I was like 5 years old or something like that. and I thought it was so cool that this music that I was hearing and this thing, the saxophone, I was like, what is that? I got it. And I went and I heard it was a saxophone. I ran to my mother, and I remember the back of her, she was like doing the dishes, and I was like, Mom, I want to play saxophone. I want to play saxophone. And then she was like, not until you're in fourth grade, or 10 years old, or you're in fourth grade. And I ended up skipping some grades, and I always remember that from the time I was 5. Like I just wanted to play the saxophone. And,
wow.
I skipped a couple grades and got to fourth grade when I was 8 years old, and then I started playing the saxophone, and I fell in love with it, and as a project and learning how to do it and get things to notes. Then once I started improvising, that's when I was like, okay, I really dig this, and I think I have to do this to some extent, or like it just automatically somewhere in there, it becomes a part of you where it becomes so much of a language that you can't not do it, and it'll never not be part of you.
Yeah.
Like even no matter what I do it, whether I do it as a profession or not, and I'm content to, part of the brewing thing is like, people joke that I only started a brewery so I could get myself a gig, and that's not, they're not totally wrong. Not get myself a gig. I've been playing plenty, but this one's I'm in control of, and it's a steady gig, but to be able to play.
At what age, like, did you start improvising? Were you like 11 or something like that, or in high school, or?
Yeah, I was around 12 or 13. I started taking lessons from Gary Bias, who's the saxophone player for Earth, Wind and Fire.
Oh, wow.
I was in Southern California, and his wife was in my mom's a school teacher. Oh, one of the reasons I also fell in love with music to begin with, my parents are rather educated, and they are incredible. Like they are well versed in a lot of things, and super smart. I adore them for all of those things. But the one thing they are not is they are musicians. They couldn't do it. So music was always something that was mine. It was like kind of like a little, it wasn't exactly rebellion, but it was something where like, pride, couldn't be damaged because it was mine,
Sure thing.
That was my area where I learned an expertise and not have anybody tell me what's going on with that, and kind of go down that road. And I think I had an affinity to that because I could do that on my own. Not that they were like super, there was not much of pressure like anywhere, but anyway. So yeah, my mother was a school teacher, and she was teaching at UC Riverside, and one of her students, not a very good student apparently, was her husband was Gary Bias, and she was like, she didn't exactly take a bribe, but hook my son up, maybe we can do some extra tutoring or something like that, or figure something out.
Yeah.
So I started studying with that, and then I got really into Earth, Wind and Fire, And during one of my saxophone lessons, MC Hammer called up and was asking Gary Bias to come to the studio. He's like, "Nah, man, I can't. I gotta be in this lesson with Chris Cuzme." I just remember that as a kid being like, "What? That's Hammer on their line? Stop!"
Wow. That's fantastic, man. It's really interesting to me because I've never known this aspect, and I think we just have always lived real time whenever we hung. We never really delved into the past. I just find it so interesting where, the name of the program is Searching for Sparks, and the idea is like, where do those sparks come from that keep us, fired up and continuing to create music or to brew beer or whatever it might be, to write a novel or whatever. So, I love exploring that and to see, maybe try to pinpoint where some of those areas came from. So the fact that you saw Cannonball Adderley play on TV for like a commercial and that blew your mind.
1 minute. That's the Cannonball Adderley. That was the spark that sparked that. And then Gary Bias and hipping me to Earth, Wind & Fire. The baddest band on earth is, I think, when I started really getting into soul and like kind of some of the deeper rooted stuff that I got to even later once I really started diving down that road. But then what really made, when the click happened, where I was no longer thinking about the notes and I was just speaking the melodies. Yeah, that was more mid high school under the tutelage of my saxophone teacher, Bill Sears, who is actually retiring in a month now after 3 years at Interlochen.
That was at Interlochen.
Yeah. So I studied with Bill Sears. I went to Interlochen Arts Academy. I left home at 13 and went to boarding arts high school and studied with Bill Sears and met a lot of great cats like Doug Herlinger. We went to high school together.
Wow. Did I know that? I don't think so.
I don't know. But yeah, Doug and I were roommates in high school in 1993 and 1994, but we met in 92 or that area. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And did you go to William Patterson as well?
I left Interlochen, went to William Patterson in order to be close to New York City at like a fraction of the cost of one of the New York City schools.
Right.
That's where I met Ari Honig, who introduced us and how we started playing.
That's right, because around that time, like 96 or so, I had met Jafar Barron and at Ortlieb's, which is a jazz club here in Philly. It used to be a jazz club here in Philly. And he said, man, just come out tonight, because I asked him, I said, I'd really love to play sometime. He said, just come out tonight to Silk City. So I went to Silk City, brought my amp and pedals and plugged in, and this band was just killing. And we were just on like that. And at the end of the night, he's like, come back next week, and it just went for 10 years or something like that. But Ari used to come out because he had a gig at Ortlieb's around the corner. And I always remember him being there like, hey, man, we're chatting. And one night he said, hey, you want to make a band? You want to start a band? And I'm like, yeah, who would we get? And he said, well, I know Kevin Arthur and this saxophone player, Chris Cuzme. Maybe he would join us. And that's when we met, not long after that. You know? And we made an album, one record called Jazzheads, Avant Wot Not. And you and I wrote a lot of the heads on that record. And I just remember that period of time just as clear as day. And all the gigs. In fact, I was telling my girlfriend yesterday, I said, when Chris used to show up for gigs, he would show up and he would have a drapery of saxophones, didgeridoos, percussion, flutes,
Gotta be prepared with what the spirit would, what the spirit calls.
You've always been blessing the stage, and that was one of the things that I remember about playing with you. Is like, we definitely were, even with Jazzheads, we had forms and heads and things that we wrote, but we would always stretch, and we would really explore and get lost as well. But it would be like just amazing stuff happening in that band. And of course, with Ari playing, it was just like, wow, where's Ari at? Where's one? And we'd be always looking at each other like, here or there, and it was just such a fantastic time. And I know we drove around, the East Coast a bit and did a lot of gigs. We played a lot, and it was great to be in such a beautiful working band, so that's when we really got to know each other in that band. And I know around the same time we started another project, which was just almost like an improvisation, which is called Global Illage. And that's with you and Dan Sears and Jim Hamilton on percussion.
Yeah. And
that came out of nothing. And it was like a studio project. We found the tunes in the studio.
That's right.
And that's when I think we really all learned, like maybe we all learned the advanced possibilities of, you know, creating in the moment, you know, creating compositions and improvising, and that the fact of improvisation leads us into the real stuff, you know. It's a different kind of way of playing, you know. And I was wondering if you would talk about that a little bit from your point of view.
That was probably the start of my affinity for that. Well, a lot of that band in particular, developing that, stemming out of Jazzheads too, because there was a bass. I mean, it was in heads, not heads, and like you said, we would get lost in the middle, being like going down these journeys, these soundscape places that we went a little bit more ethereal into soundscapes with global illage, but we still found melodies to grab onto, but we found it in the moment. And with that, there was never a chance to like go into autopilot at all. Like, you know, you got to keep your ears open. That's what I loved about it so much, and I still do it. My favorite gigs now are that, and that's one of the things that we were doing at Fifth Hammer. And it's a spirit and tradition that I like to keep alive for that reason. And everybody who I get hired for the gig that I was doing here at Fifth Hammer, I mean, we did tunes the last 3 weeks, but I was doing it here under the guise of Beers for Ears, where we improvise based on the beers that I have on tap. So that's the guideline. So if this beer is bright, or if it's you know, bright and sprightly and about friendship, then I want to be playing. I want that spark to be, you know, this is the spark, and we're playing based on how we feel at the time, how the room is reading at the time. That's the other thing. Like, you can't go into autopilot and not be reading the room if you're completely improvising, because everybody's there for the journey. It makes it, whether they know it or not, it's all inclusive and a partnership of everybody who's there for that moment, that fleeting moment that's ever fleeting. Lucky to have it recorded, or lucky to have it not recorded in some cases.
You know, it's going to be amazing when you don't have recording equipment there. You know, it's like they can be just the most amazing moments. It's like, well, that's one that got away, but wow, we were in it, and we didn't think about that stuff, that we didn't think that we were recording. So it was, but then, you know, the ones that you capture, that you're blessed to capture, wow, we're so happy to have those. And I'm still, you know, blown away that we have those early documents from 97, 98, 99, whatever they are, but Jazzheads, Avant Wot Not, and the Global Illage album. And wow.
And play with that approach, even with new cats, like, you become tighter faster by having to play like that. You really get to learn other people's ability and how people react, and you know, whether it's reactionary or actionary, and to what extent.
Yeah, it's you're talking with your real voice.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're not trying to be anything except who you are, hopefully, you know. And that's something I think, you know, that a lot of people grapple with coming up. You know I did, which was, am I a jazz musician tonight on this gig, or am I a rock musician, or, you know, am I a soul musician, or am I a funk guy? And, you know, I think early on, a lot of people have to get through that thing that it's okay to be everything on any kind of gig, you know. And it's a subject that comes up a bit with students as well. It's like, you know, oh, I'm allowed to do that? I'm like, yes, please. You know,
be you, no matter what that is, you know.
Yeah,
be here and do it. And,
you know, when you have those breakthroughs, though,
respectful to the other people playing too. Like, don't play on people. You gotta be. That's how.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Be yourself. Listen. It's all about the ears, and listening is everything. I mean, the deep listening is why you play the stuff that you're playing. You know, hopefully, you know, it's we get clues from everybody, right?
Yeah. On
the bandstand, and it's amazing. Like, getting back to you bringing like bells out and shakers and all this stuff. You were always bringing like, or blessing the stage, and even now when we play, I feel that way. You know, I feel there's a spirituality in your playing that I don't see with a lot of people, but you always had that. You always bring it. It's always there. And I think it equates into your beers as well. You know, the caring, the intention, you know, there's extra layers of depth and deepness in what you do, and it's just who you are. So that gets expressed in everything you do. So, you know, I remember, and I can't tell when this was. It could have been early 2000s, but you were living in West Philadelphia across from the park. And that was like a famous house for a while because it was filled with you and and other musicians and friends of ours. And is that where the brewing started?
Yes. So I started brewing in Philadelphia at 4329 Baltimore Avenue, across from Clark Park. And my friend our friend Dan Sears drove me to pick up my first homebrew kit. And I started brewing in the basement, and then eventually, like out in the backyard there, I got a fire burner, turkey fryer to do it outside, and that's when it kind of started. And it's homebrewing, going to the improvising versus playing written stuff and how to approach it.
Yeah.
As a home brewer, once I understood the language, and after homebrewing a great many batches and starting to understand ingredients and stuff and how to play the instrument of my kettle burner fermenters and whatever, I would just take elements of ideas and put them in there because I could hear the melody in my head and taste it in my glass after putting it together as a construct. And I could do that on the fly. I still can do it on the fly. However, as a business, there's a lot more involved, and I have to plan time and figure out whether it fits into the lineup of what we have it and out there. Like, and I treat it a lot of like what I brew as more like, I got to play the A sides to make sure that the lights can stay on, and then I can play my B so that I can pave way to make my B sides that obviously I hope are all sides. They're all sides, but the B side, the ones that are stemming for more passion project stuff. I started homebrewing in Philly with George and Nancy Rigby from Home Sweet Homebrew, who I think still have their shop. It just might not be on 20th and Sansom. I'm not really sure, actually. But a lot of people on the East Coast from my generation and the late, I think they had the shop in the mid 90s or early 90s. And like Sam Calagione from Dogfish Head, I think, was good friends with them too, and got used to get some of it from there. And so like they're kind of like this homebrew nucleus from a lot of people from my generation of homebrewers that have gone pro.
Well, I remember later on from that, you worked at a restaurant for a while, and you'll have to tell us about that restaurant because I know they allowed you to take over the taps there, and that was like your first time doing that, right?
Yeah. So like, let's go to the story that leads us to that is a little bit like, okay, I made my first homebrew in Philly, but I didn't officially move to that house. Like as soon as I moved down there, I got offered a gig in the city where it was decent pay during the week. And so I basically like got the house down there, and I stayed in the city during the week, and I'd come down on Fridays and come back on Sunday mornings. Right. And I would homebrew on the weekends. And so like after brewing my first batch, that one of the weekends, I was up in New York City. It was a Tuesday. I'm at work. I'm in this fucking cubicle. It wasn't horrible work. I was still, for me, it was only a means to end being, making sure I had enough bread to be playing music, the music that I wanted to play. Cause I had already made the decision I didn't necessarily want to be a full-time professional musician if it meant I had to play music I didn't want to play. Right. So that happened before. And I was like reading up on, I was nervous about the beer that I had in the fermenter. I was like, what's going on? So I was looking up all this stuff on home brewing, looking over my corner, make sure nobody's like looking at what I'm doing. And I saw this guy, Phil Clark, had won all these awards at local homebrew competitions and stuff. And it turns out he was part of this club called the New York City Home Brewers Guild. And it turns out that the New York City Home Brewers Guild meets on the third Tuesday of the month at 7:30, and it was 6:30, and it was like the third Thursday or Tuesday of the month. And I'm like, oh shit! And I grabbed my stuff, hopped out of there, and then I went straight over to the spot, and I walk in the front door, and he's like, "Are you here for the homebrewers meeting? My name's Phil Clark." And I was like, "Dude, you're my hero," but you'd only been my hero for like 1 hour, right? But anyway, those became some really great friends, really great peers.
Oh, that's a great story
to share homebrew with. I eventually became part of the club, but also because of that cushy job that I had down there, I ended up saving a little bit of money and ended up buying into a beer bar in 2005. And I became part of that beer bar. But then also because I was so into beer and kind of like the different things that flavors could do in beer and how well it pairs with food under the right circumstances, and from sweet, salty, and like contrast and harmony, and the best pairings being those that do both. I was just like feeling this advocacy for it, and I just started doing more advocacy for that in New York City. I helped start New York City Beer Week.
Wow.
And also through the New York City Home Brewers Guild, I met a guy named Chris Post, and together with Alex Hall, we opened Wandering Star Brewing Company in 2011. But that was in Western Massachusetts, and as a saxophone player, I'm not going to move to Western Massachusetts. So I was doing sales and marketing for New York City, like as a side gig. I would go up there and brew like maybe once a month, which turned to once every 4 months. And in the meantime, I was just holding some beer festivals also here in New York City. And out of the blue, I get this call, and it's Kelly Taylor from Kelso or Greenpoint Beer Works, and he's like, "Hey man, do you know anybody who wants to work or help out at this little brew pub in Soho? It's part time." And I'm like, "Part time? I love part time. Sure, I'll do it." and I can't wait to help the brewer over there. And he's like, "Well, actually, the brewer's gone, so you'd be taking over this thing." And this is right after Sandy, wow. And this is a basement two-barrel brewery. That's actually so, and it was this is the last thing I have from it. So we were going into the.
I remember those.
Yeah, it was, so that was that's the last. I just had that as momentum. It just happens to be outside this door.
Well, I remember carefully going downstairs in the basement to where you were brewing, and seeing your habitat down there, and you showed me the whole operation, and the ceilings were very low. It was dungeonous in a way, but I say that with all respect and love.
Of course, I didn't put it together. It was a crazy Franken brewery. It was kind of like an afterthought. Like it started as a restaurant first, then the husband of the chef ended up getting the home brewing, and the mother of the chef was a lawyer, so they ended up being able to manage it, to have them officially changed over to become a restaurant brewery. And certain things were very wonky, but they were all, compared to the tools I have now, both temperature control and other things, very certain things of it were very handicapping, but that ultimately made me a better brewer.
Absolutely.
Especially being like so small and brewing only 2 barrels at a time.
Yeah.
So that I could, just like be learning faster.
I remember the beers being amazing, and I remember being down there with you one night for a little while and seeing how hard you worked, just the hours of tolling with all of that. Are we going out?
So it's a big difference.
Here's we're about to look at Fifth Hammer Brewing. Yeah, this is unbelievable. And
so it's quite a different thing than what I was doing in the basement over there, right? So those are 2 barrels at a time. And those are 30-barrel tanks. So way different than that thing in the hallway you just saw. Also, you saw how hard I worked. Now I make this guy do it.
Who is that?
That's Zach. I get my boots wet, just not as often as I want to. That's a fancy thing. These are all fancy things, but this is our stainless steel forest.
Well, I urge everybody to go to Fifth Hammer. It's mind-blowing, and every time I go there and have the opportunity to play with you and drink the beers and hang out, when I see what this has turned into, it is just it puts me in the mindset of awe. I'm blown away where this has gotten to. This is the main room.
Yeah, that's the hang.
Wow.
I'm not gonna walk around it though because I'm maskless right now. So
yeah.
Okay. So this is my closet. Here they go.
We're back in the closet. Thanks for that little quick tour, because I'm sure everybody was happy to see that if they don't already know about your fabulous brewery. So, dude, a lot has gone down in the last, I don't know, 20 plus years, 25 years.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
dude.
and here we are, and you've been a blur. I've just always noticed you as a blur. Anytime we got to play over the years, especially after you were in New York, you were always on the run. You were there, totally focused in the vibe of whatever was happening, and then you were on the run, and now you have this brewery that has just been kicking for a while and just getting better and better and better and better, and wow. Wow is what I can say,
I feel the same. It's definitely not anywhere I imagined or thought was going to be like this. You know what I mean? And also even right now, I joke right now that I make him do it, but I don't really. I mean, I get my boots wet, but I'm torn so many other places now that I'm also like, as owner of the brewery, like I love the action of doing this stuff over there.
Yeah,
that's only because I'm the kind of person I like getting dirty. It's not easy work. That's hard work over there. Like, shoveling stuff around, like making sure everything's all on point, doing that consistently. But it's also work. Unfortunately, only the owners can do it. That direct work, where the company's going to go or how things are going to manage. There's more things to juggle. But at the same time, my name's on the marquee, or I'm the most social of anything. Like, oh, Fifth Hammer, Cuzme and Mary, I said, where are they? So we're a more public figure. Our partner Dave and his wife Eleni are amazing too. The great yin to the yang of what we are. With that, keeps the ship afloat. And then we have a great team. And Long Island City, the neighborhood has just been so incredible, so amazing. Yeah. The support and the dogs in the neighborhood have been dope. This is like every day it's a journey. Every day is different. The last year has definitely. The last year, of course, with COVID has been wild. Like, we were very fortunate to be able to survive it the way we did, and I'm so excited to be playing music again, though, too, and finding the balance there with the crew over there. They all know my priorities in music, so that's the other reason why I'm not trying to do too much work over there. Keep it open, so if there's a long ladder, I can still make the gig.
So somehow through all this, you're still balancing music with the beer. You got one on, so you're getting it all in.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to be doing more of both. If that makes sense. So there's only so many hours in a day.
I know. One day at a time.
Yeah.
When are we going to play again?
I would love it. Let's figure it out, man.
It feels like it's about time. Like, things are starting to open up, and especially this summer, we can be outside and stuff like that. So
I spoke to the lot. So Culture Lab LIC is ready for us. Whenever you're ready, I can make it happen. This is Kyle. Hi, Kyle.
Hi. Hey.
Kyle is our tap room manager.
Hi, Kyle.
Wow.
You're live.
This is for everyone. Yep. See? Ooh, a package.
Music stand.
Thank you very much.
It says it on. Well, on the other side.
Yeah. All right. See you
about.
Later. See you later, Kyle. Yeah. See you out in the real world one day.
Yeah.
Once they let me out of this closet. Yeah. So this is exciting. So this is not all the packages we get here are beer related. This is a new saxophone stand. I've been playing enough music that I lost my saxophone stand.
That's great.
So I'm excited about this. It's a nice, lightweight carbon fiber thing that all fits into itself. I'm not a spokesperson for these, but I'm very excited about this. It's a very expensive stand, unfortunately. But what's cool about it is it just goes into itself. Look at that. Just kind of. This one goes into that one, which goes into this one. Then you take all of these. And
that's beautiful.
Then you take this. Uh-oh. Let's see. Do I need to know how to do this?
You might have to read the directions. Maybe.
Yeah, one day I'll read the directions. I see something going on here. I'm ready. I feel like there's one missing. We'll get back to that.
Do you still have Jazzheads albums there at the brewery? For sale?
I brought them the other day. They were right here. I started cleaning up this room the other day, so they're not.
If anybody gets in there, they can get one from you, right?
Yes.
And also, they're available still from 1K Recordings, Bandcamp. You can get them there, and the Global Illage stuff that I think is unbelievable. The complete Portland sessions. Remember that weekend?
Yeah. We're at our 20th anniversary or our 10-year anniversary since the last recording we did of that. Is that true?
Yeah, it's been 10 years since Portland. That was 2010-ish, I think. And we played I forget what the name of the festival was, but we played the festival. Bill Frisell was there. It was like all these amazing musicians. And we played 3 or 4 stages throughout that weekend. It was insane. And I just remember the final night. I think we played for 3 hours straight, nonstop, and it was. I wish we had a recording of that.
Yeah, Oh yeah, the second part-time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was you know, some of the journeys we have, but it's something about you know, we're always in touch. You're busy, and there seems to be like a cycle of, you know, 10 years, and like it's time for another project. And I know we've been talking to Brian Boland, who is the producer engineer of the Global Illage Records, and you know, we might be getting another one happening soon. I really hope so.
I would love it. That'd be great. I know that Dan is going to come to New York. I think he said early June for a second, and hopefully talk about stuff too. And I did talk to Tana at the Lot for Culture Lab LIC, so we can get together. Maybe you, me, Ari, and Tid. Be killing.
Oh, that'd be great. I'd love to do that. Yeah, because I think we were rained out once or twice, or maybe I was rained out. I'm not sure how
you were rained out because we were coming. Yeah, we were coming from there. We didn't want to risk having to come. In the end, the weather opened up, like the skies opened up for the gig. But that didn't mean that a lot of people were there, because last year was more of a tip thing. It wasn't really established the way it is this year. Now people are coming back with the, you know, with the
beautiful,
decent amount, even though it's both tip and a small.
Man, you know, it's like, I know you're super busy. You're still in the midst of your beer, but I know how you groove. So is there any advice that you could throw out to people about, you know, it's like all of our paths are singular paths, and we figure them out. And sometimes I think they're improvisations. We follow our hearts or whatever. But what would your advice be to any musicians or possible brewers or any creatives?
I think
forward. You know?
I think continuing on what you just said. I mean, you know, follow your heart. Don't distrust your heart, and don't worry about what that person's doing over there. Do you, all around the board. I mean, but at the same time, you know, especially when it comes to like creating a business, if you want it to be, if your standard of success means that you're making money on it, then you have to think about it a little bit differently. Obviously, there are business decisions to make. You have to play your A sides to have room for your B sides and really get your expression out there. And that strategy is not always an easy path to deal with. I have to deal with it in the brew side, because even though it's my vocation, as I feel like I really just enjoy bringing things from concept to glass, on the music side, from bringing things from melody to glass, or from concept to melody, you know, I want to play the music that I want to play with the people I want to play it with, which means that I don't want to just be taking gigs that I don't want money to be the issue that gets in the way of me playing the music that I want to play.
Absolutely.
So to support that, I started a fucking brewery, which now I really love doing. Like that's part of my voice too. Is that? But here I am gonna be in a place where, okay, I'm gonna make a little more IPAs this month so that I can make my barley wines and my canned conditioned Belgians. You know, when I don't get to make those all the time, I can't just be those. Those don't move as fast. And even though I'm really delightfully proud of my Pilsner, if I don't make an IPA, I'm fucked. So I'm still playing the hits because I still want to. I like the life that this provides, or that it gives. You know. Well,
you know, some of those beers are an acquired taste, and also you have to be enlightened. You know, not everybody is. You know, to the beautiful Belgian beers, for instance. You know.
Yeah.
Man, I love you, and I'm so glad you're on this planet. It's been a blessing since I met you in 1996, and
I cannot wait to see you again. And,
likewise. You know, and it's
now, right?
Double stuck now, and you know, it's just great. I just feel like as we're coming out of this thing, you know, it's much more profound, our connections. You know, I just don't think people take things as for granted as they once did.
I think you're absolutely right.
So the human connection right now is like, oh, it's just so beautiful, and I feel like there's such a positive motion. Even though there's a lot of crazy dissonant shit in this world happening, there's a positive motion happening from a lot of people. And we just, as artists, we have to keep bringing it. And you, my friend, are bringing it. So thank you.
Trying with the circle. Love.
I think that's it for today, man.
Well, dude, thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me on Searching for Sparks. I hope some sparks are found.
Yeah, me too. And they were. And, I can't wait for the future hangs and gigs. And if anybody wants to grab any of our recordings, you can get Jazzheads at Chris's Brewery, which is Fifth Hammer. You can also go to 1K Recordings Bandcamp. That's Global Illage, live in Portland, and the Jazzheads Avant Wot Not, a little commercial there. And there's all kinds of other good stuff up there too you might want to browse around on. But,
if we play, we keep it pretty loose on Wednesdays. So Wednesdays 6 to 9 out front. Now we'll re-roll that piano out.
Wednesdays. Wow. Well, I know a lot of people show up for that, and especially now, it's like the perfect time, perfect weather.
Yeah.
The saxophone of Chris Cuzme. You gotta witness it. You gotta check it out. So,
I think, dude, I love you, man.
Love you too. I'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye, everybody.